Good evening, everyone. My name is Brett Provenzano, Superintendent of the Fairport Central School District. I'm proud here to share information on our Fairport for the Future 2020-23 Capital Improvement Project. This is one of, I think we will ultimately have 13 different opportunities to interact with the community about this particular capital improvement project, which is slotted to be voted on by community members on October 12th, 2023. We are on YouTube Live, and this will be recorded and able to be viewed by our community members and those who are interested to learn more about our capital improvement project. I have to also say that we have a robust website where there's opportunities to learn about the long and short-term facility planning goals of the district, important conceptual designs that we've talked about throughout the entire process, the financial information associated with this particular project, student and staff testimonials on our facilities and the need for facilities, and of course frequently asked questions and timelines. So I invite community members to preview that website. We'll have a QR code later on so people could take a look and scan to that website. And also you'll see it's above here on the screen, the actual website, capitalprojects.fairport.org/Fairport for the Future 2023. So lots of information on that website. It's definitely very helpful to learn about the project. It's also important to know, and I'm really proud of this, that our Board of Education has supported a strategic plan. And part of that strategic plan is this concept of responsive district leadership and operations. The operation piece speaks directly to our facilities, making sure that we have modern and safe facilities that meet our expectations, to make sure that we're programming and have facilities that support our programming as we move into the future. And it's not only the board's expectation, it's a community expectation. We continually hear how important it is to have facilities that are engaging, flexible, and modern, so our students can learn and engage with our staff and help them do what they all do best. In this particular project, that was our primary goal, was to create modern learning environments at Fairport High School to comfortably absorb ninth grade and support the district comprehensive programming. It's really important to say that we are going to be merging Minerva DeLand with Fairport High School in 2026-27. So if you are a sixth grader now, your student will be the first class of ninth graders here at Fairport High School. We want to make sure that they come in. We could do it right now. We can get our students in. It would be scrunched, though. Our programming would be impacted. There wouldn't be a consistent flow and cohesion to our programming. And that was something we heard from our staff on last year as we were reflecting on our next steps with our capital improvement projects. They wanted to make sure that we preserve the integrity of our programming, which means we know where our staff is throughout the day. Students know where our staff is throughout the day. There's predictable environments so they can meet outside of the classroom, and this project gives us an opportunity to accomplish that. We also begin to consolidate district properties. Balmer Place will be up for sale if we're able to continue to move forward with this. That little piece gets lost in the project because of all the excitement and interest in what we're going to be doing with our renovated spaces. But we're going to begin consolidation of district properties with the sale of Balmer Place. And that's why there's a piece on this, and I think Mr. Stevens will be talking a little bit about it with Martha Brown. We'll be renovating some office spaces to take our professionals who are working in Balmer Place, and that would include our instructional directors and instructional coaches, and put them at Martha Brown in space that is available. Update and modernize Fairport High School's track and field facility. Throughout the project, or throughout this process, we had students come forward and talk about the need to update and modernize Fairport High School track. For years, we have about 150 students each year come out for track. All students get to participate in track. All students get to compete in ways that meets their needs and where they are as athletes. And so it's a facility that all of our students use, also through PE classes. And of course, community members will be able to use that as they walk and experience Canal Town or Trail Town, excuse me. And of course, minimizing the tax impact on residents was something that the board wanted to make sure that we were not adding any additional tax burdens, or try to minimize the tax impact on our residents, and we'll be talking about that in this project. So we're going to be focusing on Proposition 1 here, which will be no additional tax impact to residents after the use of existing capital reserves. This proposition will include building additions here at FHS, which includes 5 STEM classes. Now, STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. Those classrooms are aided by the state, which we'll get into, and they will be mixed use, which means we're going to be able to do multiple different things to support our programming. Renovated classrooms in the library, and use our library spaces that can be responsive to the needs of our students and staff, making sure that students have a great and safe and flexible environment to interact with each other and our staff in a renovated library space. And it also gives us 3 more classrooms in that space, which we'll be showing. There'll be 2 health, PE, athletic administrative spaces updated and renovated, and special education related service spaces, which is a must and growing need that we're honored and obligated to serve our students in. So we need to make sure that we have spaces ready for that entity, and then additional parking improvements, and relocated and updated tennis courts, and of course the reconstruction of spaces in Martha Brown into administrative spaces. And then we have Proposition 2, which is $39 annual estimated impact for a $200,000 home after the use of existing capital building reserves. We're going to talk to you about how we got to that number as we move through it, but that is going to get us an 8-lane track. Right now, we have a 6-lane track, and that track is not commensurate with county or state standards and expectations. That track doesn't allow our student athletes to participate in experiences, end of the season experiences. We can't hold sectional meets or state meets, given the fact of the state of our current track. Grandstand to hold 800 community or, if you will, parents, relatives, fans, friends from Fairport and from our visiting areas. Press box, scoreboard with a PA system, high jump, steeplechase, 2 pole vaults, long jump, triple jump, 2 of those, shot put, 2 of those, discus areas, 2 of those, and of course a storage building to store the equipment that's associated with the invitational track. Again, these are requirements, and these are expectations that our students and staff have said are priorities. Our community members have come out and visited the track. Community members have spoken about the track and the need for a track. The most impressive thing about the track this past spring, when the board was contemplating the scope of this project, was that we had seniors come to make public comments, and they said that they won't be able to benefit from the track, but the younger students will. The 4th graders, elementary students that are in our schools, they're going to be the ones that benefit, and they deserve it. I think that speaks to the Fairport heart and Fairport spirit, and that's why you see a Proposition 2. And here it is. As an overview, you'll see a STEM edition, again, science, technology, engineering, math edition. That's in the rear of the school. It's the orange little bump out there. We'll get a closer look at that in a bit. That's where the STEM edition is going to go relative to the landscape of the building, framework of the building. Library reconstruction, which is in the front of the building. There'll be 3 additional classrooms, additional parking. You'll see the parking spaces, again, where the tennis courts are right now, and then the tennis courts will be located in between the multi-purpose field and the ball fields in the back. So that's where the overview or the site plan for the proposed project will be. And if you want to get a little bit closer, you'll see that the STEM edition will have 5 classrooms. There'll be maker spaces, and it's important to recognize the range of programs that we have and we offer. Informational technology, computer game design, web design, woodworking, design and build, production of film, consumer auto, small gas engines, vocational auto, design and draw production, or DDP, otherwise, principles of engineering, architecture, digital media art. These are the classes that our kids have an opportunity to take each year. We need to make sure that we have space designed to support them. If you go to our current spaces, like many of our community members did over the summer and last week, they had an opportunity to tour these sites and see that these sites are simply antiquated. Maker spaces are supposed to be flexible. You're supposed to be able to have, up to 30 kids, 40 kids in a classroom, and these can barely hold that. But our students and staff have been making do, but we deserve better. Our community has higher expectations for how we run our programming. And here's a concept drawing of the STEM edition. And you can see that you're going to be able to have an auto class. You're going to be able to have some workstations on the other side of that to be able to hold different classes. Right now, you can, in that auto shop, you can only use it 4 out of the 8 periods of the day. Highly inefficient, and the lifts need lots of work, lots of code upgrades need to occur, and we're going to be creating a space that gives us mixed use and support of our programming. Again, here's just another look on how we envision this. And then you have actual enhancements to the library, improved access and visibility, flexible use spaces and integrated technology, modern furniture and finishes, spaces where kids can collaborate, spaces where students and staff can collaborate, spaces where classes can come down in the day and use the library for different purposes. While we're able to add 3 additional classrooms along, it would be the front of the building here at Fairport High School. And again, here's a conceptual design of what it could look like. You'll see the meeting spaces, individuals collaborating with each other. You'll see spaces where you can have group work, book talks, and so on. As we move forward, if we're fortunate enough to pass this project, these designs would be more refined, and we would get the users in up closer and help designing what this library will look like. Here's an internal picture of what and where the work is going to be occurring. You'll see the STEM edition and the 5 classrooms. As we discussed, you'll see the health classrooms adjacent to the pool and gymnasium area. And you'll see the library spaces on the interior. That's what it looks like within the footprint on the first floor. That's where the construction is going to be taking place, and we're going to be talking about the phasing of that and how that will impact upcoming school years. That was a quick rundown of the project. Now Mr. Stevens is going to talk about the fiscal component of the project.
Okay, thank you and good evening. So the next piece we'll start with Proposition 1 in terms of the fiscal components of the project. So up on the screen you can see the total project referendum of $36.35 million. Of the $36.35 million, the district's going to start off by allocating existing capital building reserves of $18.86 million. This will help bring down the borrowing principal from the overall debt and start of the project. This project has the district has a building aid ratio of 78.9%. That's assigned by the state, meaning that the district will receive back 78.9% of the aidable portions of this capital improvement project. Bond percentage is the next piece you see up there. So about 72% of the work taking place is aidable. Throughout any capital project, there may be some unaidable pieces that may exceed cost allowances, et cetera. So we apply that building aid ratio against the portion of aidable work within the project. That leaves us with a principal borrowing of $17.5 million, interest of $7.2 million, and total debt of $24.7 million. The district, with the state building aid, one key component with our capital building reserve usage and our state building aid is to result in a zero-cost project after the use of those two funding sources. So after building aid, after capital reserve usage, this project has no additional tax impact to the community. And you can see it up on the screen there. Projects are aided over 15 years. So the district would receive building aid to support the debt payments over the course of 15 years throughout the course of the debt service on this particular project. Important to note that New York State continues to support and demonstrate a commitment to school districts across the state to encourage capital improvement projects. They support this by building aid, and we continue to receive the building aid. The state continues to support us and actually wants us to plan long-term as school districts. We have a 5-year building condition survey that the state mandated about 15 years ago. This helps drive capital improvement projects for districts. It identifies the work on useful life basis and improvements that we need to prioritize long-term as school districts, and they continue to support this through the funding source of state building aid. So I think it's really important to note that, as school districts prepare and plan for capital improvement projects, the state actually encourages this work to take place, and they will continue to support us through the building aid formula. Here's just a quick summary in a pie graph format in terms of the funding source for Proposition 1. Again, you see building aid supporting 57% of the project, and our capital building reserve supporting 43%. And here's a look at the timeline. Throughout planning of any capital improvement project, we come up with a timeline of planning, design, construction, and closeout. So here you can see where we are now, 2023. We have the vote October 12th. And then if the project is approved by voters, we move through the design process. Mr. Provenzano mentioned earlier, we then involve users of particular areas to further develop the design of the spaces. Once we get through the design process, it gets submitted to the State Education Department for their review and approval of the plans, at which point, once approved, we can bid the project out for the work itself. And then, once bid and awarded, construction from 2025 through 2027. In between, you see in 2026, that's the point in which we merge 9th grade students over to Fairport High School for the 26-27 school year. Here's a look at the, again, from a site standpoint, some of the different big pieces of construction. Like Mr. Provenzano mentioned, there's a STEM addition that's spring of 25, slated to begin, tennis courts in spring of 25. It's important as we work through the different site pieces to create parking where the current tennis courts are. That work is also embedded into the work. And then, again, you see the new parking in the summer of 26. Proposition 2 timeline. So before that was Proposition 1. Now we're looking at the Proposition 2 timeline. Proposition 2 is the track work itself. So again, you see, yep, this is just a picture here of the track, and we'll talk about the timeline coming up. A couple of concepts here for the track and looking at the overall site. Jump into the costs first before we get to the timeline. We have the Proposition 2, so separate from Proposition 1. This is the track itself. Total cost of $9.5 million for the total referendum. You see the building aid ratio, that's just a reference that our building aid ratio is 78.9%. However, this portion of the work exceeds our cost allowances, so there is no building aid. This project is not building aid eligible. However, we are applying some capital building reserve to this project of $1.6 million, bringing our borrowing down to $7.9 million, interest of $3.2 million for a total debt of $11.1 million. This equates to approximately $39 per year on a $200,000 home, and that's over the timeline of 15 years. So it's just under 1% on the tax levy of an impact overall. We continue to have the goal to, first in Proposition 1, bring that down to a 0 additional cost, and then Proposition 2, apply what we had of capital building reserve usage to bring that cost down, again, to the $39 per year. Here's the timeline. Again, added into this piece is the track work, and you can see that work slated to start, assuming project passes, and we go through the SED approval process, New York State Education Department, in the summer of 25, and that construction to continue through the fall of 26. The next slide has a nice little timeline, kind of broken down in a linear format. Here you can see the October 12th vote, design phase of 24, bidding the project, construction period, and then close out at the end of 27. We'll kind of zoom in a little bit more on the construction itself. Important to note, as we work through Proposition 1 on the top, in Proposition 2 timeline on the bottom, you can see in 2026, there will be no track facility in the 26 season as we move through that construction process itself. So that provides a little bit more context in terms of the timeline of the construction phase of this work. Next, what you'll see on the ballot. A lot of language, legal required language that we have to place on ballots for voting on projects. Basically, Proposition 1 references what we talked about before, the total proposition, the building reserve usage, and funding from our 3 different capital building reserves that were approved by voters for this purpose of reducing borrowings on future projects. And then the overall borrowing that would take place from a principal amount. Referenced here, the district will still need to borrow. It'll still be part of the budget in terms of debt service payments. But again, that state building aid coming back in will offset that debt service over the 15 years of the project. And Proposition 2, again, very similar language, talks about if Proposition 1 is approved, shall the board move forward with Proposition 2 of the track improvements. And here you see the, at the end, the principal amount not to exceed $7.875 million. And that piece will be levied over the 15 years without the offset of the state building aid. Again, that $39 per year for a $200,000 home impact on the track project. And that wraps up the 2 propositions and the language that'll be seen on ballots.
Just emphasizing that Proposition 1 must be approved in order for Proposition 2 to occur, if Proposition 2 gets approved.
Yep, correct. Yep, reference right in the language of the proposition resolutions themselves. You can see the, as Mr. Provenzano mentioned, in order for Proposition 2 to move forward, Proposition 1 shall be approved.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. As I said, there's a QR code here present on YouTube Live for those who are going to be watching this at a later time. Please visit our capital project website to find information on long and short-term planning, frequently asked questions, conceptual designs that we're using, project timelines, and how we are adapting spaces to students' needs in this project. The vote, again, will be on October 12th at Johanna Perrin Middle School from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., again, on October 12th. Thank you very much for tuning in. As always, we appreciate our community. We appreciate the great spirit and doing all we can to support our students and giving them the very best. And we look forward to seeing people come out once again on October 12th at Johanna Perrin Middle School from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Thank you.